And now, the LSU Football Fix with Preston Guy, presented by TigerBait, starts now.
And welcome to your LSU Football Fix. I'm Preston Guy, staff writer at TigerBait.com. Join with me, as always, each and every Monday night at 8 p.m. is Sports Illustrated LSU country publisher Zack Nagy. Zach, what's going on, man? Slow week, right?
Yeah, no, we're ramping up in a big way right now. Obviously, we're going to talk a lot about some signing day stuff, portal, etc. Regular season's in the rearview mirror, but the offseason's just begun. So we got a busy stretch coming up, and we're gonna give all LSU fans everything they need.
Do I hear a little bit of a sore throat there? Like a little bit of your voice?
A little bit, dude. I don't know what it is. A little under the weather today, but
weather.
We're gonna
it's cold.
back.
Hey, look, man, that was a cold game you went out to Saturday night, and like you were there. You were being a journalist in the press conference, doing your job, man. So working hard, man. Tonight's show is brought to you each and every week. It is made possible by our friends at Celebrity Theaters. Remember, they're your only locally owned and operated theater in Louisiana. So make sure to give them, check them out. They make our show possible. They're our title sponsor, so I'd appreciate your support for them. So tonight, it's going to be a lot of talking about dudes. Okay. I think we all watched the game this weekend, and I think everybody was happy with the result. Very impressed. If you've got some questions or something you want to talk about the game, throw it out there. I want tonight to be kind of chat heavy. We're going to talk. I've got a list of guys to talk about. We got to talk about guys going out and guys coming in the program, right? So lots of that going on. Of course, signing day is Wednesday. So this is a good primer. One thing I want to throw out there is what we talk about tonight, that it's not going to change more than in the next 36 hours. You know what I mean? Like Zach, how crazy was the Jakeem Stewart stuff this weekend? I mean, that's the kind of stuff that happens this time of year.
Yeah, look, I mean, the last 72 hours, even alone, have just been madness. And you're going to start seeing teams begin throwing out bags to kids and trying to get things to flip. So it's going to be interesting. Well, we'll see how the next 48 hours play out. But again, we live in the wild, wild west right now of recruiting, and anything can happen in a 10-second span. So we'll see what happens. But LSU's looking pretty solid with the 2025 class that they've got right now. It looks like a majority of the guys are locked in. Preston and I will hit on 2-3 guys who might be kind of piquing interest elsewhere, but We'll get to that in a little bit for sure.
And look, if you have a guy you want to know, put him in the chat. I'll try my best to address it. It is kind of a wild time. Portal, transfer portal, a lot of people don't know this. It's not open. There's a lot of fans out there who think the portal is open and they see players entering. It doesn't open until December 9th. Did you know how wide the portal is? I remember talking to Brent Venables about this actually after the game, where he's like, that's a wide window. Do you know when it closes?
Well, isn't it the end of
December? Yeah. It's the 9th through the 28th. So it's like 3 weeks. So anyways, and by the way, the portal is for when you stick your name in there, not pulling it out, so to speak, by actually transferring out. I mean, you're allowed to enroll in a school. It's just when you get to put your name in. So a wild period. We're going to get to a bunch of your questions. We're going to talk players. I've got a list of stuff. If you want to talk a little bit about the bowl game possibilities, we can. I don't think you care, but if you do, let me know. I mean, look, I'll ruin it for you. It's probably going to be Music City or Texas Bowl, and it's way too premature to talk about who your opponent is. So it could be like one of 30 teams you're playing, basically. So with that being said, let's get to some comments here. Count de Money, of course, he's a regular to the show. Preston, Christmas time is defined by hop, apple, cider, or hot chocolate. Zach, take that. Cider or chocolate?
I'm a hot chocolate guy.
Yeah, me too. For sure. Okay, but you know what's better than both of them? Eggnog. Eggnog for sure. It's the best holiday drink. It's not particularly close.
My dad's side of the family loves eggnog. I have not been one that enjoys it too much.
Really, look, it is a distinct taste, and some people love it, some people hate it. I love it. Smiling like Buddy the Elf in the pic, Brock. That's because you're here tonight. That's why I smile like that. I'm that happy to see you. You'll notice we got a new thumbnail for the show. I really dig it. So y'all give me some feedback on that logo tonight. I actually didn't see it until 20 minutes before the show. Fire 3449. Hit the like button. Of course, guys, y'all hit that like button. Interview with Zack Weeks wasn't weak at all. Of course, a play on the word week and week. LSU's got so many weeks. They're almost at a month next year with 3 of them coming back. Talking to Zack was fun last week, wasn't it, Zack?
It was, and I had the chance to catch up with him on the sideline on Saturday night. It was his first game as an LSU commit, and he talked a lot about the show and how he enjoyed his time, and he said it was a really good interview. So we enjoyed it, as did he. It was nice being able to catch up with him for a little bit as well.
No cojones, Kelly. Eggnog and brandy or Crown Apple. It's definitely one of the more spikeable drinks out there. I used to bartend and make stuff like that through college. I'll tell you, some spiced rum, really good in it. Some Kahlua, actually, if you want to go full on dessert, there you go. Let's see if we have any. It's like taking a while to get to some football question. Where's Mike Scarborough? Mike Scarborough and John, thank you for joining our show. I hope I can do my best Mike Scarborough imitation for you. Mike Scarborough joins the show every Wednesday night at 8:00, and we do our post-game show. Of course, there's not going to be a post-game until the bowl game, so me and Mike won't have our duo back for a little bit, but you can watch him every Wednesday night with Buddy Sanji, and those guys are great, man. It's one of the biggest shows out there on YouTube. Hit like, beat Mike. Hey, do me a favor, guys. Hit like on the show if you have not already for Nagy Bomb and the chef. I should get me a little chef hat for the Tiger back there. If anybody knows where to get any chef hats, hit me up. All right. Let's see if we can get some football. All right.
I actually have
Preston.
Preston, believe it or not.
What's up?
I actually have one, by the way.
You have a chef hat. Why do you have a chef hat?
Halloween. Halloween.
All right, what's a brother got to do to get hooked up with your chef?
I need to get that to you.
Hook me up, man. Hook me up. I'll transcribe more quotes for you. Okay. It's funny, guys. After the game, they print out coaching quotes, right? And we use them for our stories in the media, right? And I figured out there's a way on your iPhone. You take a picture of the piece of paper and you can copy the text and send it. And let me tell you, for journalists everywhere, that's life-changing. Football question. Preston, was Mike borderline football question, because it's like we're asking about Mike's opinion here. We're really worried about Mike, not the football, with Pimpton's performance on Saturday. All I can tell you is, he caught the ball and I kind of looked at him and he was like, there you go. That's impressive. It looks like Pimpton. Do you think they're giving Pimpton more reps over Tradez because he's more polished and the better player right now? Or do you think they're doing that as like a portal play? Like, hey man, let's get you some catches and keep you on this roster.
Yeah, I'd say a little bit of mix. Obviously, Tradez was playing more of a kind of a stand-up wide receiver type role. And then for Pimpton, he's playing true tight end. So
that's a good point too.
I'd say with what you're saying, there's a little bit of both. Obviously, kind of a portal play as well, saying, look, we got you involved a little bit here. Stick around. This is what you can expect next season if everything goes accordingly. But it'll be interesting to see what Pimpton does.
Yeah. I think they both need to come back, especially if Mason Taylor leaves, which I expect Mason Taylor to leave. I know there's some buzz about him returning or whatnot. I just don't know what else he needs to put on film. Like, what's the point of coming back unless somehow, some way you could convince him that there's a championship coming his way next. Sometimes you do see players come back to win a championship, but I think that'd be, I don't know. They got a tough argument to make for that because, this team's pretty far away this year. All right, Stephen Miller, who's a good, faithful listener of the show. Appreciate Stephen each and every week. You can enter the portal anytime, right? No, Stephen, that's not correct, actually. You can only enter during designated windows. You can exit whenever you want because once you're in there, you're basically and Zach, correct me if I get any details wrong here, because it's a sticky situation. But basically, the portal is just an online portal, just like you'd log on to online banking or whatever. You put your information in, and when you're in there, coaches are now allowed to contact you, right? But you can announce you're going to enter, but you cannot physically enter the portal. Then once you're in there, coaches can contact you during certain designated contact windows, which is a different thing altogether. And you can enroll in school. I mean, it's your education. Like you can enroll. You're going to enroll based on the semesters or the quarter system, whatever it may be. Is that all? Did I mix up any words there, Zach?
No, I mean, I think you're spot on. Obviously, you see a guy like Ricky Collins who's planning to enter the portal. His name won't officially be in it until, let's say, December 9th. From there, people can start contacting him the correct way. We know right now we live in the wild, wild west where you have agents and other types of figures that are probably in touch with other programs and starting to gauge interest. But officially, those contact periods start on December 9th. And then, like you alluded to a little bit earlier, we'll run through all of December, and then you'll enroll in a school and get ready to go for your spring semester of football.
Got some super chats here. Let's get to those. Mr. LSU Fan for Life with $4.99 super chat. Thank you for supporting the show. Does BK need to be aggressive in the portal to bolster the O-line and go hunting for a solid QB2? Zach, I don't take this lightly when I say absolutely. I mean, you're hitting it on the head. I mean, and whether it's particularly on the first point, there's no way this O-line is going to be up to speed and ready to compete next year if you don't add some veteran guys in, right? I mean, We've seen Mabinga have an awful year this year. You've got Tyree Adams who might come back, and you've got some good reps out of him. I like Tyree Adams next year, but you got to either convince some guys to stay that aren't projected to stay, maybe an Emery Jones, right? Or you got to go to the portal, or both. I mean, the first part, that's probably the one where you need the most players at, right?
Yeah, I think you need to go and hit the portal with force when it comes to your offensive line. You need to go get some depth there. We saw that was an issue this year. Paul Mabanga just certainly wasn't up to speed in that first game, but I know a lot of people want to kind of dog on him a little bit, but he impressed a little bit. And I guess impressed might be a little bit of an overstatement, but certainly took steps in the right direction over the last 2 games of the season. And obviously, moving forward now, you got to go out and get some depth. But my question to you, Preston, would be is do you write off a guy like DJ Chester after a kind of abysmal season and go and get a true kind of veteran savvy center to step in next year? Or do you continue having him progress and hope he takes that next step into next season, which would be his redshirt sophomore year?
Yeah, that I was literally having that locked and loaded. The reps that DJ Chester, he consistently ranks toward the bottom of the SEC in his Pro Football Focus grades. And we saw, a devastating play in this game that allowed Oklahoma to tie the game. DJ Chester hasn't given you the quality reps you needed out of him this year. And I know he's a young player, so I don't want to write him off yet, but yeah, you're looking for a veteran center if there's one there, right? I mean, absolutely. In fact, they pulled him from the game this weekend because they were so upset with him. So I don't think there's any question about it. If there is a veteran center out there, go for him, man. In terms of a solid QB2, yes, but you got to get a guy with eligibility if Nussmeier's coming back. A lot of people were talking about Caden Slater, the Liberty transfer. And of course, Liberty, you got CJ Daniels here. There's a connection. So a lot of people are trying to connect that dot. You're not touching Caden Slater if Nussmeier's back, right?
Right. I think
that's silly.
It's a challenging sell here because now you have to try to find somebody who's going to have to understand that if Nussmeier's back in the mix, they will be battling for QB2 reps. They will not be guaranteed any reps here. And that's a tough sell in this new age of NIL, the transfer portal, et cetera. And then, like you said a second ago, they'd have to have multiple years of eligibility.
Yeah.
That's one thing that Brian Kelly has talked about on numerous occasions when getting guys in the portal, but especially at the quarterback position now that Bryce Underwood's out of the mix. You also have a youngster in Colin Hurley who still might need a year or two to develop. So you're going to have to go out and get somebody with multiple years of eligibility who's ready to sit back, be QB2 under Nuss, hoping he comes back in 2025, of course, and then work from there. But yes, you're going to add a portal quarterback 100%.
Absolutely. And hopefully a young, talented guy who's just in a log jam somewhere, right?
Well, I think the situation in Oregon is one that kind of resonates here. You went and got a former, I mean, obviously, we can only pray LSU goes out and gets a 5-star of Dante Moore's
Like
caliber.
Dante Moore, right? Yeah.
Obviously, Dylan Gabriel was there and shined. Hopefully, Nussmeier can do the exact same thing in 2025. Have a youngster like Dante Moore come in, relax, wait, get some time under their belt, and then take off in 2026. I think that would be the ideal kind of perfect scenario.
By the way, of the positions where I feel like LSU could land a quality second stringer guy, quarterback is the one I have probably the most confidence with because it's so situational. Think about like Joe Burrow, where he wasn't a starter, but that's just because, well, you had a guy who would go on to break the Big Ten passing record there. A guy who was just, Dwayne Haskins was just ready a year before Joe Burrow was. So I have confidence LSU can get a good quality QB2. We'll just have to see. Yes, they need to be aggressive on that. And look, I also want to clarify that Mabinga and Chester, I'm not saying they need to hit the portal and leave, but I am saying that they need to come in and compete with other guys and earn their spot, right? These are guys you want on your roster. 10,000, they're freshmen. You don't write off a freshman. And frankly, situationally, if you're running your program right, very rarely should you be relying on super young players like that.
Right.
If you're managing your roster right. So it's a little bit not their fault that they were out there so early. So let me just clarify, I'm not writing those guys off. I'm just telling you that next year, based on what they gave you full year, and so there were some times Mvinga looked good, there were some times Chester looked good, you probably want something better based on what you get. You'd like more improvement than is probably the average improvement you'll see from one year to the next. Samuel Scarber with the super chat here. In fact, $2 super chats there. So thank you, Samuel Scarber. Okay, here we go. Found a comment from him. Took me a second. Any play on Tommy Rees? I don't see that. I mean, I understand the BK connection. No, I don't see that happening at all. Right, Zach?
I don't think I would say anything about that either.
Okay. All right. Yeah. But thank you for the question in super chat, Samuel Scarber. I appreciate you supporting us. They need to give whatever they gave Nuss in the locker room.
I think a lot of people need that. He was juiced up and he looked, he was cooking. Things
that stood out to me after the shot. I've been very critical of his deep ball this year, and I'm not talking like, the 15 to 25 yard downfield deep ball. A lot of people call that a deep ball, and probably if you're charting his passes, that's how you would label that as a deep ball. I'm talking okay, you got a wide open receiver running downfield, you got to hit him. He hit 2 of those, and I'm not so certain that he's hit 2 in any game this year like that.
I mean, did you feel like a sense of like what could have been throughout most of that game? Like,
just give him compound V.
Chris Hilton, who you could have somebody who takes the top off, Caden Durham, and then Josh Williams the week before, who was dominating on the ground. Like, it just gave me so many feelings of like what could have been with this offense for the entire season. I mean, it was so nice to see Chris Hilton get in the end zone twice. Obviously, it was his only 2 catches, but so impactful. Now it's interesting to see what he'll do, if he'll stay in Baton Rouge for another year. But nonetheless, the entire time, man, all I could think about was what could have been with this offense.
Yeah, you do think about that, especially with Chris Hilton being that we saw in multiple fall camps, Nussmeier and Hilton just had a great connection. And
everybody got to see what we've been seeing, what we saw during fall camp. Like a lot of the media looked like fools because we were sitting here just hyping up Chris Hilton, rightfully so, because he was balling. Yeah. And then obviously he gets hurt and you don't get to see him throughout the first 7 weeks of the season. And then boom, a lot of the fans got to see what we saw in camp. So there's definitely a moment for me and a couple of the other guys to say, I told you so.
Yeah.
I didn't say it, but it was definitely
one game. Well, and more notably, there was some talk that Chris Hilton might hit the portal. And
hey man, now he's dating Flauja. You don't know what he's going to do now. He might want to
she was tweeting about it during the game too. Hey man, maybe that rapper money keeps him around. Can she sign him?
But she's balling on the court, man. She's in the midst of a huge junior campaign right now on the court. So she's truly a talent.
They won by 90 points yesterday. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. It could have been more if they didn't start off so slow in the first quarter.
Oh yeah, but wait, they outscored them 37-0 in the second quarter.
Yeah. I've
That's
never seen
unheard
that.
of.
How do you not score? I don't know. I've never seen anything like that. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. So, yeah, what a power couple going on there. Yeah. So, touch on your question here. You asked about can you see it kind of coming together for LSU? All right, let's say Nussmeier comes back, right, and then all of a sudden you're looking at Chris Hilton, you're looking at Aaron Anderson, and you're looking at who's the CJ Daniels, who's already Kelly announced he's coming back, right? Then you get a guy like Xavier Thomas still there. Kyle Parker comes back and is healthy.
Don't sleep on Kyle Parker, man.
Well, he's young. Yeah.
I think this guy's got tremendous upside.
Me and Mike were talking about the young receivers and wanting to see some show flashes of greatness. Like who's showing you like they could be knocking on the door of becoming an Odell Beckham, a Jarvis Landry, one of those guys. Because remember, like Jamar Chase wasn't Jamar Chase's first season, but he showed flashes of it. And that's the thing. So Kyle Parker might have had a chance, but he just got injured too soon. I did like what I saw out of him. And then you talk about maybe adding one elite portal guy, which I don't want to speculate on who that could be because there's a name running around right now that is just absolutely wild. And I don't think that, first off, he hasn't even entered the portal. Second off, I don't even know if LSU would be a contender for him. I don't want to get anybody overexcited without having anything of substance behind that. So anyways, yeah, watch it. And then, you talk about bringing back an Emery. You're going to have to get heavy on the portal for O-line. And then tight end, I think you're going to be fine whether Taylor's there or not. So all of a sudden, you start to feel a little better about that offense. Got another super chat from Dane Bergeron. His running back rotation sucks, especially in the red zone. I don't know if Zack's going to get as aggressive about it as I am, but yeah, I hate it. I think that the rotation is awful. I don't understand why Josh Williams is used the way it's criminal against Josh Williams. I also don't understand why it's like when a running back gets the hot hand, Caden Durham averaged 7.3 yards per carry and he got 11 carries. Maybe there's an explanation there behind the scenes. I'm trying to get a feel for how serious those dislocated toes are. I know he's going to have them surgically repaired, but I mean, we're talking about something that's 2 months old now. He's been playing the whole time. Can we get him 15 carries? You know what I'm saying? Like when he's that hot. Zack, thoughts on the running back rotation?
Yeah, I mean that's the only thing that I could say as well is pretty much you're sitting at a guy like Caden Durham who when he's cooking, I feel like it's hard for him to continue to get into a groove and have that momentum when you take him out and throw in a guy like Josh Williams. I don't think Josh Williams should ever be catching the ball out of the backfield, to be honest with you. I love him, the epitome of an LSU Tiger, but he's more of a power back, not a gazelle like a guy like Caden Durham. So I like to see somebody like Caden Durham catch the ball out of the backfield and not as much of a guy like Josh Williams. So nonetheless, the rotation was a little bit unique. Fast forward to next year, I mean, you just have an embarrassment of riches to work with. But we're going to sit here and just talk about 2024. Certainly a unique approach from Frank Wilson, Brian Kelly, and the rest of the staff. Yeah,
and I can't wait to see JT Lindsey and Harlem Berry get in the mix there and see how they use them. Harlem Berry in particular is a weapon who should be able to be implemented pretty quickly because he's such a quick back and he's a good receiver, really good receiver. So if you got soft hands and you can move quickly, you tend to get on the field a little faster at running back than a big bruiser who really needs to, work on his vision. We're going to take our first commercial break here. We'll be right back, and I'm going to get to a bunch of comments. You guys are cooking in the chat. Keep on bringing them. I'm going to try my best to address all of them tonight. But we're going to talk. Let me take this super chat down first real quick, though. Thank you, Dane Bergeron, for the super chat. I appreciate it. Let's talk real quick about celebrity theaters, guys. With locations in Baton Rouge and Ruston, guys, you're going to be guaranteed to see certain things each and every time you go simply because it's locally owned and operated, okay? You're going to get a clean facility, better pricing, superior customer service, state-of-the-art technology, and of course at the Baton Rouge location, you're going to get an invigorating arcade featuring over 50 games, making it the largest in town. It's got a bar featuring wine, beer, and frozen drinks, oversized leather reclining seats, and of course, it's Dolby Atmos 3D sound system. Got weekly promotions going on to make it affordable for you. It's $5 for all patrons over the age of 55 on Monday. Bargain Tuesday, where you get discounted movie tickets and concessions for all. Wednesday is college night. Admission for college students after 5 p.m. is $5. Of course, Thursday is the Thirsty Thursday. Let's talk about Rejuvame real quick. I'm going to play their ad and we'll be right back.
At Rejuvame, we specialize in medically monitored hormone and weight loss therapy, giving you the energy you need for all life's challenges. Let us be your age-defying clinic. Restore me, refuel me, Rejuvame. RejuvameMedical.com.
Transform your health journey with Rejuvame Medical. Discovered personalized treatment plans with weight loss medications and hormone therapy designed just for you. Begin a new you at RejuvameMedical.com. All righty. And guys, you know, one of the things we try to do with all our sponsors is add locally owned businesses that we can trust to provide a great experience to you. And we know Struby's fits right in with that. All TigerBait live shows this year are proudly brought to you by Struby's Seafood and Steak, located at 107 3rd Street in downtown Baton Rouge. Struby's prides itself on providing a 5-star dining experience for a reasonable price. Struby's is a locally owned with ownership in the building, taking a level of pride in its food and service you just won't see from any old corporate establishment. Struby's features a full menu of specialty meats, including USDA Prime Black Angus steaks, 100% certified Wagyu New York strip. For those looking for something outside of red meat, they offer items such as the dry-aged pork chop, black truffle lobster pasta, redfish, and plenty more. Book your reservation online tonight at strubys.com. Make sure to let them know that TigerBait sent you in. All right. And last one here. Guys, if you're looking for the best place to shop, you see that tiger head right behind me, you know where it came from. The best place to get all your officially licensed gear is Alumni Hall, your ultimate shopping destination for an LSU fan. They've got it all from the Nike gear, Champion, Johnny O, On Reserve, Peter Millar, Southern Tide hats, Yeti gifts, accessories, and more. And they've got plenty of those gold jerseys we saw 2 weeks ago in Tiger Stadium available. Make sure to use your promo code TigerBait, all one word, TigerBait, to get 10% off your purchase in store or online. Shop with my friends at Alumni Hall. All righty, let's dive back into it and see if I got any good chats here. Carvis Durr, who's always providing some insightful roster and player on site. If we keep Jackson, I like the rotation of Durham, Jackson, Barry, and sprinkle some Johnson in there. Of course, he's talking about Jawan Johnson. And man, Jawan Johnson's a guy I'd like to see on the field more often. I mean, he's incredibly talented. I'd like to see Jackson lose some weight. I think
I get that. I get wanting to keep his speed and stuff, but don't sleep on JT Lindsay, man. Like JT Lindsay balled out, and he's not even done yet. I mean, he had 1,900 yards, 27 touchdowns.
Let's say 2,000 yards, right? Yeah.
I mean, he's balling, man. Like, I think JT Lindsay's a guy who's gonna make an impact a lot sooner than some people may think.
What's the kid from North Louisiana who went to Texas? James
Simon.
Yeah, James Simon. A lot of people are saying that JT Lindsay is actually the better back between the two of them now. So, yeah, I think the running back room roster-wise is in a pretty good position in terms of quality guys. I think Jackson, they made a health and nutrition blunder. They looked at his speed. They probably used a little chest monitor thing to monitor how fast he was going, and they looked at his top speeds. I don't think they were looking at his burst and acceleration, though. I think that's really what's hurt him. I think Caleb Jackson, if he ever could have gotten to an open field this year, probably would have been a bit better. But I just don't think he was able to get it. I think he was too slow at the get-go. I think he needs to lean up and work on his core balance, because that's another thing. You cannot be a big bruising back and just take a seat out there. And look, Harvester agrees with me there. JT looks better than Simon for sure. That's what I'm getting at. Let's see here. Farron Thomas, whatever happened to Trey Holly? You know, he's got long-term pending legal stuff going on, and he's technically enrolled in the university, right? But I think that they just decided to use a red shirt on him this year and work it all out. Is that basically what you're getting, Zach?
Yeah, I think Trey Holly's just got some things he's got to work on off the field. Obviously, some legal things that need to get worked out before he can be back on the team and with the program. Obviously, still enrolled in the university, so still on scholarship and whatnot. It would appear. Could be wrong on that, of course, but I'm pretty sure that is the case. And you just work out all the legal stuff and everything you need to get back on the football field. We'll see what happens over the next couple of months heading into 2025. But for right now, definitely not with the team, it appears.
James Wade asked about Micah Hudson. Of course, Micah Hudson was a very, very highly recruited wide receiver a year ago who committed to Texas Tech this year. Thing that stands out to me about Micah Hudson is Texas Tech isn't exactly a loaded football team. And I think he had 8 catches for 125 yards. And I don't cover Texas Tech. I don't know the full backstory there, but if a kid is usually as good as advertised, being a very high 5-star, and you enroll at a place like Texas Tech, I would say the expectations are you're going to put up better numbers than that, right?
Yeah, I would say so too. I think he might have gotten hurt this season as well. Is something that kept him out. I don't think he had a catch since mid-October against Baylor, which would lead me to believe that he was injured and whatnot. But nonetheless, Micah Hudson's going to be one of, if not the most sought-after transfer portal wide receivers this cycle. You're seeing the contenders that people are putting out there. LSU's in the mix alongside schools like Texas A&M, Colorado, etc. So there's going to be some heavy hitters here, and there's going to be a guy that's certainly demanding a lot of money on the NIL front. But this guy is an uber talented piece that a lot of people are going to want LSU to drop a bag for. I wouldn't put my expectations too high right now for a guy like Micah Hudson, just because he might demand a tremendous amount of money. We'll see.
Yeah,
Kelly said he'd be aggressive. And I wouldn't be surprised to see LSU go and get 2 wide receivers. It might not be Micah Hudson, but I certainly would lean towards them getting at least 2 receivers in the portal this cycle.
Do you have any thoughts on the NC State wide receiver, Kevin Conception?
I don't. I know that he's also going to be a guy that's demanding a lot of money as well. Again, this is where I'm going to kind of reiterate what I was saying a second ago. Just Brian Kelly said they're going to be aggressive. So I think the saying kind of put the money where your mouth is, or whatever type saying is going to be here when Brian Kelly's talking a big game about what they're going to do in the portal. I'd love to see him back it up. I know they were super cautious last year, which leads me to believe that they've kind of been getting ready for this year, kind of getting the funds in check, getting the roster construction in check. And I do believe that they're going to go out and make a splash in the portal. And I think Brian Kelly's going to kind of back what he was saying a couple weeks back.
He'd definitely be a talented player to bring in. Of course, he had a bit of a sophomore slump this year, but talking to some North Carolina guys, some guys up in the beat up there, they really blamed it on quarterback play by and large part up there. So that's a guy who's going to be highly coveted. Of course, H-Town Creole brings up, don't sleep on Jelani Watkins either. He redshirted this season. So we didn't see him. I don't know. Did he take any snaps this year?
He might have gotten on the field a couple of times. Obviously nothing notable, but Jelani Watkins, man, that's a speedster. That's a guy that Buddy Sanji is very, very high on, and has told me numerous times that he wants to see him get on the field. Put some more weight on him. Let him get into SEC kind of physical shape, and he could be a guy that definitely makes an impact. But don't put too much weight on him. We saw like happened to Caleb Jackson.
Right. Just get him ready to play SEC football. He's a guy who I'm not writing off. Don't get me wrong. I haven't seen anything out of him yet other than spring practice. You can see he oozes speed, but don't write him off yet. He's definitely a guy I'd like to see stick around and do something next year. Emery has another year. Of course, talking about Emery Jones. Yeah. Oh, yeah, he does. And before the season, you probably had next to nothing chance of him returning. But I think all of a sudden you're looking at the season. He had a bit of a disappointing season this year, and his stock has dropped into the 2nd or 3rd round. There's some talk he might come back. So
I'd like to see a guy like Emery come back, obviously. I think that's a casual take. He gives you that veteran presence up front. I think you slide him inside and put him at guard and see what he can do from there. I think a lot of NFL scouts are going to want to see him get a little bit more film at the interior offensive line spot. I think that's where he's going to pan out at the next level. We'll see. But I would certainly like to see a guy like Emery Jones come back and kind of take over as that next in line offensive lineman.
A little bit of a tough question here, but I'll do my best to address this one. This is from Chuck E. Do you think Sloan is safe? Because I mean, Chuck, maybe Zach knows something I don't. The honest answer is I don't know. LSU did some things well on offense this year, and they did some things poorly. And that's all going to come down to Brian Kelly's evaluation. I'll tell you this, he's a well-liked guy. He is loved by recruits. He is still considered an outstanding recruiter despite missing on Bryce Underwood. I don't think anybody necessarily blames coaching for messing up the recruitment of Bryce Underwood. I mean, there is some facts with that situation, such as your job security just goes down when you don't have Bryce Underwood committed to play for you. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter if it's your fault or not. You had job security because Bryce was coming to play for you. So you better keep Sloan on staff.
Yeah,
and
no,
that is
like,
out the window.
not to interrupt, but 100%, dude. Like, I think you're 100% on the money right there. I don't think Joe Sloan could have done anything more to get Bryce Underwood. I mean, flying up to Michigan numerous times, face-to-face, get him committed, staying committed for over 300 days, etc. I think Sloan did everything he could in order to kind of get Bryce Underwood to campus. But I said it 2 weeks ago, money talks, and ultimately that's what kind of separated the Bryce Underwood saga for him to go to Michigan. Is he safe? I'm not sure anybody on the offensive staff is safe right now. I think you're looking at a situation where you regressed so much, and there was so much kind of just a roller coaster ride where there were so many ups and downs, twists and turns. I wouldn't say anybody is safe. I think a lot of people can continue to try to make sure that they're back next year, but I'm not sure anybody's safe on that staff on the offensive side at all.
I agree with you full-heartedly there. And it just depends on BK's evaluation. Now there's no politics involved of, oh, well, is this quarterback here for you? Right. It's going to be strictly, did he do a good job playing call? If you had to ask me if I would do away with him, I would say it's worth another year seeing what he can do, bring Nussmeier back. I think there were some things I really liked out of Sloan this year. That being said, when you rank 99th in the country in red zone touchdowns, that's concerning. You got to do some things differently on offense to improve that. And the fact that all year long that was a problem, they just nothing they could do to fix it. Especially, I'm thinking about, you didn't think to do like some sort of Jawan Johnson change of pace inside the 5-yard line. You tell me Jawan Johnson can't read a 5-yard play? You tell me he doesn't have enough arm strength to whip it in there for a tight end inside the 5? Particularly, is he worse than Nussmeier at it? And you bring that element of running. Oh, and by the way, 15,000 yards of offense in high school. Dude knows how to play quarterback. I would have done. Anyways, that's a suggestion. I think there's also problems like who was your goal line back this year that really hurt that. You got to do some things to improve that. If you improve that one metric, this offense really goes up a notch, right?
I agree. I think there were a lot of questionable decisions from a personnel perspective that could have put them in a better position. Ultimately, you're looking at numbers that are abysmal. I mean, 56th in scoring, 108th in rushing yards per game. So it was a super challenging year for them. I think Sloan obviously deserves another shot next year, of course, but there's going to be a lot of changes that need to be made in the play calling slot, personnel-wise, et cetera. I think you're going to put yourself in a better position in year 2 as a play caller for sure.
And let me put it like this. If you move on from Sloan, I think he showed me enough to say you only move on for him if you have a really strong play. Don't fire him and bring Tommy Rees in here. I'd rather Sloan. But if you've got an ace up your sleeve, say like, who's the FAU coach? Tom Herman, who's won championships as a coordinator, elite play caller, just hadn't worked out as a head coach. Yeah, I would like something like that. I would totally sign off with that. And frankly, I would try to keep Sloan as quarterback coach if at all possible. And then you got to worry about Cortez Hankton because he's your co-OC and he does help design the playbook. He just doesn't call the plays on Saturday. So there's a lot of dynamics there in play. Travis Wilburn says, I think the strength and conditioning coach should be in question. Zach, you want to take that one?
I feel like Scarborough might have asked BK about that a couple of weeks ago.
Did.
And he had said that he thinks that they're fine in that area of where they're at and just how they track everything with the catapult kind of bib things that they wear to track all the numbers and whatnot. Pretty sure Scarborough asked about that. And I think BK said that they're kind of in a good spot in that regard. So should they be in question? Maybe. Does BK believe that? It doesn't appear so.
No, he answered it
with them since like Notre. Like I think this person, I can't remember who the strength and conditioning coach's name is at off the top of my head right now, but I think he's been with him for quite some time.
Jacob Flint. Yeah, he was at Notre Dame, but he was like the associate head strength and conditioning coordinator.
Okay.
He's a younger guy. He's very data driven. Okay. And I love that, especially in coaching. But ultimately what's on the field is what matters. And I remember a lot of people wanting to crown Flint after, coming in spring ball, LSU, a lot of players looked bigger and stronger coming into their first season. And I was like, look, man, the ultimate truth about a strength and conditioning program is what really matters is muscles built up over years. Okay. What do your freshmen coming in look like when they're leaving the program? Right. And you're looking at guys like Emery Jones who came in as freshmen. And I'm like, I'm going to be honest. Year 3, he didn't show the way I wanted it to show. So that's why it's like, I'm never too quick to crown someone. And it's beginning to look like I was spot on that. And there's some questions with it. I'm not writing him off yet, but I am saying that the team did not look strong and physical enough this year. There's an argument that the defensive line they did a good job with, because those were a lot of the same guys who were irrelevant this year who played much better. But overall in the trenches, LSU wasn't stronger and physicaler than the best teams of the country. So I think there's some questions to be asked for it. I wish I had better answers. And of course, LA Mom is asking about Frakes. All right, so Flint is in charge of the strength and conditioning, and Frakes is in charge of the nutrition center. And I can tell you, Frakes is by all accounts doing a really good job. The guys we talked to about their diet plans, it's pretty complex.
It is. We got the chance to talk to Ahmad Bro for a really long time, and that was a true freshman who put on 35 pounds during the offseason from when he arrived in January to the season starting. So Frakes is doing a tremendous job on the nutrition side of things to make sure these guys are putting the right things in their body, and also in the strength and conditioning side too as well. He put on some muscle mass there. Ahmad Bro had a lot of positive things to say about where they're at in strength and conditioning and nutrition. Obviously, there will be some questions from some people on that front, like we just got here, but I don't think that's the end all be all. I don't think there needs to be any questions about their future within the program.
Yeah. Also,
Frakes is fantastic.
When it comes to nutrition, it's less subjective. There's less there. It's like, what the nutrition is. There's less decisions to be made with it. It's like, okay, this guy, here's his goal. Let's do this. Here's his diet plan. You know what I mean? Are you cooking the food or not? You know what I mean? And from what I understand, LSU has a state-of-the-art dining facility. Pierce Lee comments with, those boys don't need data. They need to lift heavier plates. And that's kind of where Scarborough's coming at, man. I mean, look, I remember as a power lifter in high school, we didn't have data or science, but boy, we got stronger faster. And a lot of it there's that alpha mentality that you have to bring to strength. And it's almost like you can't be too much of a nerd in the weight room. You know what I'm saying? Like, we could be nerds on this podcast and talk data and numbers, and coaches probably should use it to make decisions and all that good stuff. But what he's getting at is, boy, them boys need to just lift, man. Get out there and stop worrying about all the science and the percentages. And I don't know. The truth is, I've never worked in a data science strength and conditioning program. I don't actually see the difference. But we'll see. Let's see here. I want to shift gears and talk a little bit about, let's do this. I'm going to do an ad break, and we're going to talk about a few guys leaving the program. Of course, LSU had 2 blows in the last day or so. And then we'll talk about big name guys who may return or stay, but we're going to get to our final ad break, but we'll be right back after that to talk about who's returning. And then I kind of want to go down a list of LSU's recruiting class and who should come, who might LSU add, who might LSU lose, and we'll wrap the show up as such. But anyways, before I get going too deep into that, guys, we got to thank our title sponsor for making this show possible all season long. That is Celebrity Theaters, guys. And remember, if you're looking to host a private event, they've got you covered with auditoriums, either 8 or 10 auditoriums, depending on the location. They're ready to host your birthday party, private movie screening, arcade party, corporate meeting, whatever it is, they've got you covered, guys. To set up your private event, go to celebritytheaters.com/events or send them an email, events@celebritytheaters.com. All right, let's hear from Genesis of Lafayette. Oh, might help if I play the video.
Drive in style and luxury with a new Genesis from Genesis of Lafayette. Buy a 2023 Genesis G70 3.3T Sport Prestige Executive Demo and pay only $39,870. Buy a new 2025 GV70 and take $2,000 off the MSRP with value owner, competitive owner incentive, plus finance for 2.99% APR for 60 months or 3.99% APR for 72 months. Don't forget to start your shopping online by visiting genesisoflafayette.com.
And guys, we're proud to add to our lineup of local sponsors this season, Capital City Grill, located on 100th Street, Lafayette, downtown Baton Rouge. Capital City Grill is your ideal lunch and dinner stop for your casual dining experience. Capital City Grill features a variety of sandwiches, burgers, seafood, pastas, steaks, and more, with everything priced at $30 or below for an affordable experience. Don't forget to celebrate Tiger's win at their Sunday morning brunch, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Book your reservation online tonight at capitalcitygrill.net. Make sure to let them know TigerBait sent you in. Okay, so as expected today, LSU lost Ricky Collins, right? He announced he'll be entering the portal, right? And I think that explained a lot, because remember, we looked at fall camp and we looked at spring ball. Ricky Collins looked objectively better than AJ Swan, didn't he?
Yeah, no doubt. This is a guy who was balling out during spring camp, in my opinion, and balling out in the sense of you're surefire QB2. And I still, even going into fall camp, I still thought that he was just outplaying AJ Swan tremendously. Obviously, we don't have the opportunity to be in there and watch practices during the season, but I am not quite sure what happened on that front. I think Ricky Collins is a better quarterback than AJ Swan, even down to right now. I think you have a guy like Colin Hurley who's young and is emerging. I think the writing was on the wall for Ricky to depart eventually. Yeah. But for him to not enter the game when Garrett Nussmeier went down was a little bit concerning to me.
In a competitive game.
Because I thought he's better. And even in the past, too. Like, I'm not quite sure what was happening behind the scenes there. But go and find some playing time elsewhere. Ricky Collins is a good quarterback, and I'd like to see him get on the field, of course, even if it's not.
Yeah. Well, and it makes me think that something nasty went down. I'm sure a lot of it was fueled by initially Bryce Underwood's coming in and he's seeing the writing on the wall in a bad kind of way. And by the time they figured out Bryce Underwood wasn't coming, it was kind of too late. You know, I feel like he got himself in the doghouse somehow, some way. Look, what we saw out of AJ Swan this weekend, when he overthrew Mason Taylor by 8 yards, it's like, yeah, that's kind of what we were telling you all fall camp. And you hate to bash a kid because he's done nothing wrong. Sure, he's a lovely guy and works hard, studies hard. It's just what we're seeing out there isn't great from him. And he goes out there and looked like a liability at times. So you can't roll that out there next year for LSU in case Nussmeier leaves. So I'll tell you this. With Ricky Collins going, there's even more pressure to retain Nussmeier, which is still up in the air, although Brian Kelly talked about some big guys coming back. Maybe Nussmeier would be the biggest of them all, because how often do you get to return a potential 4,000-yard passer in college football? Right?
Yeah, I think getting Nussmeier is obviously of the utmost importance right now. This is a guy who I'll keep it PG. You're in a bad place if Garrett Nussmeier does not return next season. Your quarterback room is razor thin, especially losing Ricky Collins now, for better or for worse. Colin Hurley is still young. He's 17 years old and still needs a little bit more time to develop. He was a 2025 guy before reclassifying, so he's still extremely young. And A.J. Swan clearly is not going to be that guy that takes meaningful, impactful snaps in Baton Rouge. So Garrett Nussmeier is the guy that you got to make sure is back next year. You give him the appropriate amount of money on the NIL front that he needs. Make sure he's back. Go get another quarterback in the portal and reload that quarterback room because you're in a very, very, very weak position right now in that room.
So Nussmeier is about 100 yards shy of Jaden Daniels' passing number, which he'll almost certainly pass up in the ball. If you had to guess, though, who took more pass attempts, Jaden Daniels or Garrett Nussmeier this year?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, obviously, right. How many more pass attempts do you think Nussmeier took?
So that's the question. What is it, like 150?
163.
Okay. I'd say in between 100 and
less passing yards and 14 less touchdowns. It's like, look, Nussmeier was good this year, but some people are looking at the yardage total and thinking, oh, he was almost as good. Jaden, it's like,
was it 500 attempts? I saw what Carver. Is that right?
It's just under 500 attempts. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, Nussmeier carried the teams a lot this year. Yeah, I mean, look. That actually is a little bit of okay, you threw 11 picks, but you threw it 500 times. But at the same note, was it 26 touchdowns? Do I have that right? 26 touchdowns, 3,800 yards. You would like to also see a little more production with 500 pass attempts. But, hey, you take it. 4,000 yards is 4,000 yards.
Right.
And where would you be without those 4,000 yards? That being said, you really want Colin Hurley to stick around now in a big kind of way. You do not want to have because you're not bringing in a quarterback in the class. You cannot lose Nussmeier, Ricky Collins, and Bryce Underwood and bring in nobody this year. And you got to go get. I mean, look, if that happens, all of a sudden, someone like Caden Slater's in play. If Nussmeier leaves now with Nussmeier coming back, it's a joke. Don't even kid yourself that Caden Slater. Oh well, he could come in and maybe take a red shirt and then maybe no. He's going one and done. He's looking for a big payout and then going pro. That's what Caden Slater wants. He realizes Liberty isn't the place to get that done. I don't care about the CJ Daniels mess unless Nussmeier's gone. Ain't gonna happen, partner. Ain't gonna happen. But LSU also lost Landon Ibieta, which is a sad loss, but not one that I think is gonna hurt. I mean, he's been so injury prone his entire career at LSU. It's a really sad situation for a local kid. That being said, there's a couple guys left. Perkins, I heard some rumors today about him. I'm hearing Perkins, it's pro or LSU. So I'm not hearing anything on the portal, and I think it's nonsense. But in terms of BK talking about guys expected to return, he already said CJ Daniels, but then he came out and said some other guys who haven't announced. Who are the guys who haven't announced? Who are you thinking he's talking about?
I think you got a couple of names that are going to be very interesting to see what happens down the stretch. Obviously, you talk about a guy like Harold Perkins, Emery Jones, Mason Taylor, etc. I think those are three heavy hitters right there that can change the trajectory of where this program goes in 2025. Emery Jones, to me, I'd love to see him come back. You give him the NIL deal that he wants to ensure that he's back in 2025, slide him inside to guard, and I think you're in a really, really good position right there. Harold Perkins, Whit Weeks is going to be your guy right there at the linebacker position. Who's next to him? Is it Perkins or somebody else? We'll see. It's the most unique situation that's so hard for anybody to tell. Is he going to come back for another year and get misused? Is he going to come back for another year and potentially risk another injury? It's a tricky situation with Perkins. And then Mason Taylor has already cemented his status as a top tight end in LSU history. So what more does he have to prove? I think that he is likely gone. We'll see what happens there. But those are the three that I'm sitting back highlighting, waiting to see what they do with their decisions.
Facebook said Perkins is leaving. Let me tell you this, and look, I use Facebook. Everybody uses a little bit of Facebook, right? And I think it's great to keep up with friends, family, that kind of stuff. But the amount of just crazy, bogus information I've seen in these silly Facebook pages and groups. Oh, look, here's a rendering of Tiger Stadium. They're going to build an overhang next year. Look at this architectural rendering. It's AI. You know, there's just hundreds of people buying it every time. All I gotta say is stick with your trusted sources, people, because you'll see a lot of nonsense. It's pretty funny. It is pretty funny. Let's see here. Pierce Lee, any chance Shelton Sampson stays and gets on track? Pierce, here's my thoughts on Shelton Sampson. It's been 2 years he's been on LSU's campus. And this year, with all the injuries that you had, he had every opportunity to go out there. In fact, they turned to him and gave him a couple chances to play and just showed you nothing all year.
I think when Trey'Dez Green got slid over to the wide receiver role, I think that put the writing on the wall for a guy like Shelton to enter the transfer portal. I think that was at the point where they saw really no opportunity for him to come in and make an impact. I would assume he's gone. You never know with Louisiana kids, or especially a Baton Rouge guy like him who's right down the road to Catholic High. But when you move Trey'Dez to wide receiver because Shelton wasn't producing, to me that kind of just said it's pretty much a done deal.
Mason Taylor says, Andy Whitaker says Mason Taylor coming back as man. I tend to agree. I mean, I feel like his stock could only go down. It's not like he's going to come back next year and be more physically developed. He's going to be taller, faster, or he's got to put out more film. Dude has more film than just about anybody in college football. He's a great blocker. He's a great receiver. He's clutch. And his weaknesses are also out there. I think it's silly. Robbie White says the weird thing is Nuss isn't slow. If he wants to bail from his setup and take off, he's fairly decent at getting out of trouble when he wants to. He doesn't want to. Well, here's the deal. He is fast. They've timed him. Zack, you got this last year. It was like what, 20.5 miles an hour?
I couldn't believe it when he said it. It was like 20 or 21 miles an hour or something.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Which is pretty fast. I mean, that's fast enough to be a skill player, but there's speed and then there's football speed, right? And I don't think Nussmeier has football speed. I think
like the way Joe Burrow, your sneaky athleticism. I think it's just something like that. Like you get out of the pocket.
Are you just saying that because he's white?
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much. You know how like first one in,
first one in the locker room, last one out. He's a real gym rat, man. Let me tell you, he's gritty.
Yeah, Nussmeier is by no means this uber athletic guy.
Right, but he's a good runner.
Get out, extend the play when need be. I mean, he's got that grit to him.
Let's put it like this. I think Nussmeier might be a little slower than Burrow, but Burrow runs on a football field way better. I think ultimately Nussmeier, he wants to be a pocket passer. He's not comfortable running, doesn't like doing it, and wants to throw the ball around. And I don't think he's got great instincts running the ball. Now, when he needs to, when the game is on the line and he needs to put the team on his back, he will do it. And I love that about Garrett Nussmeier. One of my favorite things I've seen out of him this year is his desire to do what it takes to get that win. That's been incredible this year. Jackson, any thoughts on flipping Solomon Thomas from Florida State?
Do you want to shift gears and go?
Yeah, let's go to the recruits here before we roll out, because we talked a lot about the roster and took a lot of comments. I've got a list of guys we'll go down, and then we'll wrap up the show. We might go 5 minutes over on the show tonight. Flipping Solomon Thomas. From what I understand, nobody has any official word on Solomon Thomas yet, but the thought is that 2-10 Florida State, he's a little, getting a little froggy about that commitment and worried about the program. And LSU's put itself in really good position with Solomon Thomas. And one of the things I was talking to one of the recruiting guys about was who else is there but LSU to slide in, right? I mean, what do you have on Solomon?
I think you're down to a 3-horse race between Florida State, and LSU. Yeah. I think LSU's pushing all the right buttons here, obviously, in order to remain in contention. Brad Davis got him to campus in week 13 for that Vanderbilt game, and they gave him an opportunity to have one-on-one time together, and Solomon had the chance to talk with other LSU players. He was on the sideline with Brian Thomas, Mason Smith, etc., just talking to some guys who went through the program. This is the number 2 interior offensive lineman in America. Huge. This is a 5-star, cream of the crop guy. People are going to throw bags at him at the last second. Obviously, Florida State's got his commitment right now, and they're going to try to hold on down the stretch. But you're looking at what the Florida Gators are doing on the recruiting trail right now, and it's extremely impressive.
Did I see 10 players have flipped to Florida
over the last 15 days.
Yeah, that dude, Billy Napier, the momentum he's got in this program since they announced he's coming back. Dude, Scott Strickland did a grade A job just going out there and announcing it. So Florida is someone you got to watch out for on the recruiting trail. There's no doubt about it.
Bottom line, those are the school. LSU's in the mix, obviously, down the stretch. We'll see what happens. That's going to be a fun one to watch. I think that's going to be that signing day splash, no matter where he goes. That's going to have people on their toes all day. I don't think we have enough of that anymore with the early signing period. So I think it'll be fun to see what he does. LSU's right there in the mix, and we'll see what he ultimately decides.
It'll be tough. Keelan Moses. All right. First off, I just want to say Keelan Moses has been taking a bunch of visits and talking to people. He's a sought-after athlete, right? And Texas A&M, he visited this week for his birthday. And of course they're in the mix. Now, Keelan Moses, what I'm hearing is he's going to make his quote final decision on signing day, right? First off, talking with Keelan, the guy is very pro LSU. I think he's absolutely listening to NIL offers and listening to other opportunities because he's a smart kid. You know what I saw today? He announced he's starting a podcast with 104.5 ESPN in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. That to me screams like, okay, you know what you're doing. He's not going to do a podcast and announce he's starting one in Baton Rouge and then go to Texas A&M. You know, I mean, I guess you could squash the podcast technically, but I think that's a pretty good sign. Do you have anything to add, Zach?
No, I think Keelan's a guy who obviously, like you said, kind of bleeds purple and gold. He's taken his visits. We went to Oregon. He's been to A&M. He was back there last weekend. We'll see what he does down the stretch. It'll be interesting to see what he does, obviously, because you got Charles Ross, the second-ranked linebacker in the country. You got Zach Weeks in the mix. CJ Jim Coyley's kind of a versatile guy at linebacker. You have 3-4 guys who are committed to the program right now at the linebacker position. We'll see what he ultimately does right there. But nonetheless, LSU's got his commitment right now. We'll see what he does on Wednesday.
If Solomon Thomas flips, that means Norvell will have never signed a 5-star. He signed DJU. He was 5 stars. Anyways, just goes to show you Norvell has been a heavy portal guy. And that's one of the reasons I don't necessarily like the portal philosophy because it giveth and taketh. So we were talking about Florida, how they've flipped 10 guys in the last 15 days. Let's talk about Florida State. The decommitments from Florida State's class, if you put it together as a class, is actually ranks higher than their current class.
Yeah.
That is painful. Anyways, they're bleeding in a bad kind of way. Let's talk about a few other guys here. You know who I'm shocked has not been brought up yet? Not one comment about this guy.
Derek Meadows.
No. Ooh, I mean, yeah, I think that one, I understand why nobody's asked about him. But Thanos, Jakeem Stewart, not one person.
Somebody did a couple of seconds ago, ironically, right when you said that too.
Oh, really? Oh, wait, here it is, actually.
I just don't know if you put that one on there.
Right as I was mentioning, nobody mentioned him. Here's the deal. On Jacoby, someone commented Jacoby Matthews.
Mm-hmm.
I do have an interesting nugget that I shared with you after the game.
Yeah.
Okay. Jakeem Stewart did not visit LSU this weekend for the game, but did visit LSU during the week. And I'm told he was probably pretty sold on USC after leaving USC the week before, but LSU put themselves back in it. I'm still leaning toward he ends up a Trojan, and that's going to be a tough pill to swallow, but he'll announce on signing day. I think he's going to end up at USC. I think they're getting very aggressive with the NIL. But I think LSU's got a chance. It's not over. I think they're going to work hard. And remember, a lot of this stuff is going to change so rapidly over the next 36 hours. It's going to change so quickly. And a lot of what we're saying tonight, we're going to look dumb because we're not doing another show tomorrow and going to come back and, well, here's where they stand now. There's going to be some updates. Anyways, Derek Meadows, the buzz on him is he might just stick with LSU. I think there's been some factors of other teams coming after him, but now the buzz is that he's going to flip to Bama. Is that what you're getting, Zach?
Yeah, I think you look at this class right now, and most of your guys have kind of told me that they're shutting things down and ready to put pen to paper. But when you're looking at 2 guys who could potentially flip, One of them is going to be Derek Meadows to Bama, like you just alluded to. And then the second one's going to be the coveted tight end from South Carolina, and that's Mike Tyler. Committed to LSU over the summer, was a guy that the coaching staff really enjoyed watching over camp season, earned the offer, committed very, very quickly. Now, down the stretch, he's visited South Carolina 3, 4, 5 times this fall. Ultimately, I think what happens down the stretch here is Derek Meadows ends in that Alabama 2025 class, and Mike Tyler ultimately lands in the South Carolina Gamecocks' 2025 class.
Yeah. I think Mike Tyler flips too. I think Meadows ultimately will flip, but there's a small chance. But I think Mike Tyler, from what I understand, that's as good as gone. But there's also guys, Walter Mathis, defensive lineman out of Georgia. Miami's pushing hard. I still think LSU holds on to him, but it ain't over. And like I said, in the the NIL era, nothing is more than a 90% deal done, right? You have there's more a 10% or greater chance that everyone in your class can flip. And then DJ Pickett, Miami's pushing so hard. They want him very, very badly. And of course that always scares me because they're big on NIL skill. A lot of Miami fans are acting like they're done, but what's your vibe on Pickett?
It's an interesting one. I've had the chance to talk with a couple of people after the visit, and it sounds like a lot of things went well. They got all the questions answered that they had. He came in town on Friday and stayed for 3 days. Ultimately, the dead period began at midnight yesterday, however you want to slice it. And that means no more face-to-face contact. So LSU got the final face-to-face visit where he had the chance to talk to Corey Raymond, link up with Patrick Peterson once again. Ultimately, I think LSU answered all the questions that he had. And I like where LSU sits here. But again, it's the Wild Wild West. It's the third time I've said it. Anything can happen in the final 24 to 36 hours. We'll see what happens with DJ Pickett. I think LSU's in a really good spot to get his signature on Wednesday. But with the new age of people throwing bags around, and you said Miami's a school that just has the ability to do that, we'll see what happens in the 11th hour. But it's an LSU-Miami battle. LSU kind of has the momentum here, but Miami could always swing in at the last second and do whatever they want.
Cortland, Jacob, when you leave the state, you pretty much never get welcome back. Aaron Anderson. That's all I'll say. And number one, guys, if you're harassing someone like Keelan Moses on Twitter or whatever, it's a little ridiculous to begin with. But I'm going to just tell you from your team standpoint, I would never say hurtful things to a recruit in the portal era, because you never know when a coach gets fired next year or something like that. And they're like, you know what? I want to come home. Speaking of come home, a guy who left the state, got some comments about him. Jacoby Matthews update. Guys, Jacoby Matthews, as soon as the LSU game ended yesterday, and of course there's other football games ended, it was more of a subtweet of anything, said, hey, that defensive backfield's going to look a lot different when I'm there next year. And he didn't say who, but as soon as I retweeted that, he sees I'm a recruiting reporter for LSU. He followed me back. We're talking about a dude who gave me the cold shoulder for months during his initial recruiting process. And of course he DM'd me right afterward about just talking about, keep in touch, So I think LSU is very much so going to be in play. Jacoby Matthews, of course, is a guy who played for Texas A&M for 2 seasons, played well, started some games, did some good things. Academically, I think things were problematic. Transferred, he's at Southeastern from what I understand.
BRCC, I think.
Is it BRCC or Southeastern? I heard Southeastern. All right. Anyways, he's out of school to get his grades in line, right? And I think he'll be a pretty good one to add. And I think LSU will probably be high on his list simply because that's the hometown team. Let's see, anybody else here? Yeah, I think that's it for tonight. Got through our list, guys. It's going to be a wild 36 hours. So do me a favor. Subscribe to the channel, hit like on the video if you enjoyed what we watched. We had a huge audience tonight. I appreciate all of your support. I can't tell you how much it means to us, but y'all make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that bell to get live notifications. Now that the football season, there's no games going to be played. We're only going live twice a week. So it's really not going to blow you up. You're really just going to come and get good stuff from either me or Zack or Mike and Buddy. Mike and Buddy will be back Wednesday night at 8 p.m. where they're going to get to recap signing day. So y'all stay tuned for that. I'm sure that'll be a massive show. And it looks like there's going to be plenty of bombs going down. I think there's going to be a lot of stuff we don't expect, a lot of stuff we don't see coming just because of the nature of how volatile things are right now. It's impossible to really leak out all the news. So I think it should be a fun one. So y'all make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit like on the video if y'all enjoyed it. I will definitely see y'all next week. Y'all have a great night.